first question is, what brought you to SCWIST? How did you first hear about it?
So I was new to Canada, and as a new immigrant woman in STEM myself, I was looking for organizations to network and also to meet people. I first moved to Victoria and I felt extremely isolated there. And that was right at the beginning of pandemic. So I thought this would be a great platform to make some connections, meet people, and the annual general meeting for SCWIST was coming up. So that was the first event I attended, and I got to see all these people who were so passionate about the cause and so friendly with each other. They seemed to have known each other for years and developed these really good relationships over time. And I just immediately felt a sense of belonging, and that sort of reaffirmed my decision to become a member and then become involved with SCWIST.
How did that first meeting feel?
It actually felt really great to see all these women from such diverse areas and backgrounds, having been on the same journey as I have been on, being new to Canada, an immigrant, so many of them women in color. So it felt like it was a very safe space for me to share my story, learn from all the experiences that those women had to share. And like I said, after that, every other event that I've attended, it just made me so happy that the relationships these women have formed over the years seemed so delightful and amazing to be part of. And I immediately felt included. So yeah, I felt great.
And what's been your role at SCWIST? Have you gotten more involved?
I did. It was a little difficult because immediately after attending those two events, I started a postdoctoral fellowship at BC Children's Hospital, and that was quite time-taking. So I first started with organizing a couple of outdoor events as soon as the COVID restrictions were easing out a little, and everyone was so eager to get out, especially living in Vancouver. We always want to be outdoors when the weather is good. So that's what I started helping out with. We organized a couple of hikes around the area. And that was the first time I met some of these women in person. And it was amazing. And since then, I've tried to be in touch with Christine. And recently, I became a part of the project coordination team for SCWIST's 40th anniversary video production. And that was amazing. Just seeing all the history and what all SCWIST has been doing for the past 40 years really was an amazing experience. And I hope to continue to do something or the other with SCWIST.
And now, looking for shorter answers, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I'm a biomedical scientist by training. I did cancer research for my PhD, and I did my PhD in the US, lived there for about 10, 11 years, and then came to Canada 2.5 years ago, did one short postdoctoral fellowship with BC Children's Hospital, and now I'm looking to transition into a non-bench area into more research management.
And why did you choose Canada?
So it just so happened that we were looking for a place similar to what I have been used to in the US, and Canada was the closest. And they have an amazing skilled immigrant program, which seemed to be of very, I think it seemed like a great opportunity for me. And yeah, that's how I ended up here.
Did you ever encounter any barriers, any pushback, even microaggressions as a woman in STEM and perhaps as an immigrant woman in STEM?
Yes, I think we face that every day in some or the other form. It's not as obvious. It's always masked into something else. It might seem extremely polite at first, but then as they keep happening over time, you realize that it's just become part of work culture. Unfortunately, some places are not like that. Some places are actively trying to educate everyone in the workplace to be aware of these things, of this bias that everyone's growing up with, right? So, but unfortunately, yes, I have been part of that, and as as a part of SCWIST now, I really hope to educate more people, engage more women, and make more allies aware of how they can not do this and make the work environment a safe space for everyone and more inclusive. So.
And that segues well into what's your hope for SCWIST? We've had 40 years so far. What would you like for the next 40?
I think SCWIST has done amazing with whatever they've implemented. The first 5 founders, we've had such strong people represent SCWIST, and more women that are getting involved. Even some men, for that matter, they seem to really understand the power behind empowering women and engaging girls in STEM from a very young age. I think it's also going to be important to come up with more policies where we can involve companies to employ better work environments and just everyone to take responsibility and find ways to not just involve the women who are getting affected by this, but also involve everyone else as part of society to take responsibility. So, yeah.
Someone actually suggested a men's auxiliary because there's no point in teaching women and girls to take their place at the table if the door's shut. So a men's auxiliary would give women a chance to educate men who can then send out these ripples of empowering more women and teaching men to, sometimes there are a few men who need to change their attitude.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's very true. It's always so I'm quite an introvert and I'm a very shy person. I don't usually tend to speak up when there are too many people in the room. And I've always been told that, or not even told, but I've always seen confidence being really encouraged and awarded or rewarded. And somehow it feels like confidence is more rewarded than competence. And I don't agree with that all the time. And I think that needs to change a little bit because men tend to be a lot more confident than women in general. And here we are constantly trying to tell our women and girls to be like, you have to be very confident, which is amazing, you should. But there should also be ways to make those people who are not innately confident feel rewarded and praised in other ways and encouraged in other ways. So, yeah.
So it's introducing more traditional women's culture in a world that has been ruled by traditional male culture. Madam Justice Louise Arbour, former Supreme Court Justice, said, 1, I never felt qualified for any job I got. And 2, she says, men will look traditionally at a job posting with 10 qualifications and go, I can do 3 of them and kind of do 2. I should apply. Yeah. Whereas women will look at them and say, I'm only really good in 8 of those, so I guess it's not for me.
Yeah, that's the sad truth of how we are raised to a certain extent and how society tells us that, oh, you're still not good enough and you can do more. You should do more. It's interesting, Lorraine, because I feel like for women, it's always, they're constantly pitted against another man in the workplace or a coworker, and you always have to exceed that person to be able to be considered successful.
I've heard that women will be truly equal when a mediocre woman has the same opportunities as a mediocre man.
Agreed. Yeah.
So what are your hopes for the future in the world? If you could change one big thing, what would you change?
If I could change one big thing, huh? That's honestly, that's going to take years and years of education that involves us recognizing our biases. And I think that starts right from the beginning, from the day there's a human that comes into life, not trying to understand what you've learned so far is full of bias, and not inculcating that into your everyday life and thinking about it, or at least acknowledging it. I think that's the first step, and everything else will eventually fall into place, because then there are these organizations like SCWIST that are doing their job in continuing this education and spreading this awareness and trying to keep everyone accountable. So yeah, I think it's the bias that we really need to deal with, and that would make a huge impact.
And thank you for all you do for SCWIST. It's great.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lauren. It was lovely talking to you, and thanks for taking out the time to do this.